I'm Nisha DeGaring.
And I'm Doug Jessup. Family Heritage Stories exist to give you ideas and examples of stories from the past to help shape the future.
It could be anything like a recipe from Grandma or a vacation location where your ancestors came from. These stories deserve to be passed down. Welcome to Family Heritage Stories, where we talk about what makes us who we are. Things like traditions, values, and culture.
How are these things passed down from generation to generation? Through deeds, through words, through stories.
Well, you ask about my vest and all the patches on it. Well, you know, we have a little fun with it now and then. And I wear this one.
Okay. Now, does this have anything to do with your fiddling grandfather?
Yes,
There you go. Okay, tell me about it.
I'm a fiddle player.
There you go. Of course you are. You know, now I'm going to have you do some fiddle music or something. You know that. This is like, okay, now here's the other thing, okay? Warrant officer, okay? What rank did you retire?
I retired as a W3, or Warrant 3. I have 9 years in the enlisted and converted over to warrant, and I didn't have time seniority to make the seniority for the higher ranks.
Okay, explain to people what a warrant officer is. Since you got the patch, I mean, come on, put you on the spot.
All right, warrant officer, well, let's see. They're somewhere between sergeant major and God.
There you go. Love it. Okay.
They're called Mister, and nobody really knows what they do, and they're very careful around warrant officers, because some of them are nuclear technicians, some of them are really strong maintenance personnel, some of them are pilots, some of them are supply, and you need all of those fields, so they're very careful around all this.
That's right. I get it. Okay. A little birdie tells me that you were on a flight where somebody got a little lost. You know which one I'm talking about?
Yes.
Okay. Fill us in.
Well, I was not on the aircraft, but what happened was that he was told to take the patient to the Tainan Hospital.
Okay.
And as I understand it, they built a fire. It was at night, and they built a fire to help him locate it.
Okay.
And that's really all I know of that one. I have a few others.
Okay. Okay. Now I do have to ask. This is totally off the wall. Okay. And these guys will understand what I'm talking about, but I have no idea if you do. Okay. Do you know anything about a CO's duck?
Why, yes.
Okay, here we go.
But I thought it was a CG, the Commanding General.
Oh, it was the general? Oh, it was
think it
CO.
was a-
Wow. Okay, I didn't know it was even that worse. Okay, tell the story again.
Well, which story? The one where he stole the ducks, or the one where the ducks walked in front of him at the honor flight tour?
Serious?
Serious.
I heard about the stolen ducks. Okay, so tell me
So we're
what's
all
this?
in a line,
Yeah.
waiting for the photographer across the aisle, and the whole thing was held up about, 5-10 minutes, Jim? Something like that, for a ducks walking down through, right in front of us, looking at the camera, going all over the place.
Okay,
And
now,
when they got
yeah.
through, after 10 minutes, someone said, "Crowley, you did it again."
Exactly. There you go. Okay, so now let's tell people what. That's hilarious. I'm going to have to give Crow a hard time about it. Why do you think that you guys have such a close connection? I mean, because this was like, 1960 something. Okay, this was a lot of years ago. Why is that connection still there, and what does it mean?
several things. Now it's my turn to get really emotional.
Okay.
They had our back. We each had our back to help each other out completely. And we sincerely liked what we were doing. Sometimes we didn't know what we were doing, but we all knew that we could get through this. It might take some mind games, and I had my mind games. I'll tell you one in a minute. And just the camaraderie and the knowledge of what type of people that our compatriots were. And we wanted to be like them. And we wanted to be with them. Does it suffice as an answer? I hope so.
Yep. I've been around you guys. I get it. Well, it was funny. When I chatted with Milkman, the medic, he says, Doug, you're going to interview a bunch of people tonight, but you're interviewing the same guy. Because you guys all had a certain mindset, a certain motivation. I mean, you got there in different directions, but the way I put it is people have different ways of getting from point A to point B, but you all agreed on point B. You all knew your destination, what the reason why you were there and what you were doing. And so, you know, and basically to me, it's kind of a mission of hope and a mission of mercy. Out of all of the Dustoff guys, you know, it was interesting to see what you guys did after Vietnam. And you and another gentleman were the guys that decided to go career, okay? And admittedly, I got to think that, number one, I know you know him. Number two, you got to have some interesting stories. And so, you know, I'm talking about Tom Landis.
Yes. A fine fellow he is.
I honestly, okay, I got to ask you, because I honestly, each one of you kind of have, for lack of a better term, a little nickname, okay? I honestly don't remember what Tom's is. Or is it just Tom?
It was just Tom.
Okay, so tell me about just Tom.
A fine fellow he is. He was a great person. He was a good sports person, basketball and volleyball when he could get it. He was also the maintenance officer. I can't really come up with anything really good stories about what he was doing, because, you know, I was home. I was at the room resting while he was out flying, and vice versa. So I flew with him one time, and during that, Jim is the one that is the funniest. But anyway, Tom and I had just completed a mission, and everything was going fine. I pulled out a cigarette. I was smoking at the time. I pulled out a cigarette and leaned over to light it, and all of a sudden the chin bubble in front of me burst. Tom had hit a tree, but he was smart enough to hit it on my side, not his.
Okay. Wow. Okay. Okay.
And all he did was damage the plexiglass. We had to
That's
replace
okay.
it.
That's okay. You and plexiglass, I don't know, man.
Yeah, I know.
You got some problems.
It's some tough stuff.
Yeah, I guess. Especially when you're trying to hit it with a bazooka at the end or something. But, okay, your beloved wife,
Yes.
her name is?
Catherine.
Catherine.
We call her
Okay.
Kathy.
So how did you and Kathy meet?
Well, I was after retirement, I was going down to Alabama to live close to my brother and his wife. He played guitar and sang, and I played the fiddle, and we made it pretty good. And we had steaks at Pop's Cabin every Friday night. No cost steaks, can't beat that. But I had, we had a family reunion, and at my grandfather's old place. He was unfortunately not there, but he still, the property was still in the family name. And Kathy and my brother's wife's name was also Kathy. So I call her by her maiden name to differentiate. Kathy Landstreet had gone with her husband Bob, my brother, up there, and I'd taken Kathy Landstreet's good friend, Joy Forrest. And Joy Forrest was a retired college professor, I think English, but that's probably not relevant and it's important. But she was thin, blonde, strikingly attractive. And so they were dancing. I was playing the fiddle and they were dancing, and she was right in front of me dancing in a manner that kept me from playing. But she was with her boyfriend, and I meant no, I did not interfere in any way, shape, or form with that. But she came back and told Kathy Howard about this guy, and Kathy Howard said, well, we'll see what happens. We'll see if there's a spark. I met Kathy Howard again with Kathy Landstreet at the local Taco Bell about, whenever it was. And I sat down, we all sat down to eat, and again, no spark. And then Joy was going away for Christmas, and I wanted to go down and at least wish her Merry Christmas. So I finally found her place and went down, and no one was home, so I came back around. I didn't know that she wintered over on the Gulf Shore. But I came back, and I knew where Kathy's driveway was, so I said to myself, well, no one needs to be alone Christmas Eve. So I drove down the driveway to wish her Merry Christmas. How was I to know there was a party going on?
Okay.
And she had one of those long, curvy driveway I couldn't see until they could see me, and they were looking at me, and I couldn't just turn around and go.
Yeah, well, I guess you had to stay at the party.
So I went up and asked her old boyfriend came out to the car. She had already dismissed him. And she's going to kill me. I'd been dead before. Anyway, he said, who are you and what do you want? Because that was a moonshine area. And I said, well, I'm here to see Kathy and wish her Merry Christmas. So he goes back inside, say, Kathy, there's some guy here that wants to wish you Merry Christmas. Be nice to him, he looks good.
So it's something like the old guy giving me a little approval,
yeah,
huh?
I got invited in. Yeah, that was Joe Piscatelli. Anyway, I got invited in, and I had pecan pie, and told her that I like making Amish friendship bread. So I would make her a loaf, and I asked when I could come back, and she said New Year's Day. And that's all I'm going to say about it.
Okay, okay. So, Ted, there's this thing called the Army War College.
Yes, it's in Carlisle Barracks, Pennsylvania.
Tell me about that. What in the world were you doing there?
Well, good question.
Yeah, well.
They had increased the size of the international fellows program. It went from 16 other countries providing a officer a 1-year course at the college, and they went to 36. So their little 1 or 2 man office was too small to handle 36. So they interviewed for another person in there. And the thing that got me the job was what I had learned in Vietnam. The interviewer, the colonel, asked, he said, "Do you have anything you'd like to say?" And I said, "Yes." I said, I'd like to say that I enjoy helping people. And he said, "Well, I should do it," and I got the job. But the job consisted of finding housing, not just for the officers, but for their families as well. Because at the War College, at the Army, Navy, Air War Colleges, and at the Sergeant Major's Academy, which is located in El Paso, Texas, those attendees, international attendees, are authorized to bring their families if their country permits it. And there's a couple of programs that help with that. There's FMS, which is Foreign Military Sales, and IMET, which is International Military and Education and Training. And those two government programs help allies. So when they come in, sometimes they come in with their families, and sometimes families come afterwards. So when the family comes in, I have been in association with realtors and embassies in Washington, D.C., and to find out the size of the family, this and that and the other. And it goes all the way back to the country that it's coming from. The U.S. Embassy in that country normally has an element, a U.S. Army element, that can feed the information back and forth. When they came in, I did everything from getting them to the Carlisle base from the airport, to include going from Carlisle, Pennsylvania, to JFK Airport, and to Harrisburg Airport, and any place else they came in, and helped him get settled, and get kids for school, get the telephone turned on, the television turned on, all the services that they want. And I developed enough contacts in the utilities world that I could call, as an example, Sprint telephone and say, "Hey, a German officer is taking over the same house that the former German officer had and would like to keep the same telephone number. Is there a problem with that?" And of course the answer would be no. But we did not have a country, as an example, from India every year. So that officer came in without any previous, no connection between that and so he may or may not get, but I had to say, "Hey, the officer from India is coming in. He's going to live in this apartment." And very few of them, I had perhaps 1 or 2 over the 16 years that moved for one reason or another. But anyway, by the time they got there, I'd have the television turned on, and the telephone, and I'd have everything like that done for.
Okay.
Yeah, I enjoyed helping, and I was doing this all summer long, waiting for the class to start. And of course, the class started a month earlier to get them familiarized with the buildings and the streets, and I'd take them down and get driver's license. I'd do this, I'd do that. The only thing I didn't do was fix tickets for parking or anything.
Yeah, well, yeah. Diplomatic immunity, come on.
Yeah.
Okay, now I do have one question because I need to incorporate this a little bit to an earlier thing. Okay. So, how old were you when you did your first tour in Vietnam?
Let's see, that was in May of '66. I would have been 23,
23 years old.
going on 24 at the end of the year.
Wow. If you could go back in time and tell your 23-year-old self some advice, what would you say?
When the lieutenant comes to tell you that if you were in flight school. No, what would I tell him? That's a good question. I would tell him, you've got a great future ahead of you. You're going to like yourself, and you're going to do a lot of the good for a lot of people. Follow the path. And don't worry about deciding which path it is. God will take care of that.
Thank you. With another entry into Hero Salute Stories with a true American hero, Ted Howard, I'm Doug Jessup.
It's our honor to be able to help people remember where they came from.
The Fedora Foundation supports the collection, preservation, and distribution of diverse stories of traditions, values, and culture through Family Heritage Stories on TV and online at familyheritagestories.org.
How do you want to be remembered? With another episode of Family Heritage Stories, I'm Nisha Dagari.
And I'm Doug Jessup.